And everybody is currently on mute. We will unmute everyone at the end of the webinar as well so that we can get all of your questions answered. And again, please do make sure to use that question chat box on the right-hand panel of the GoToWebinar to enter in your questions if you're more comfortable with typing in your questions. All right, now I believe the majority of you should already be familiar with the login aspect, so we'll go ahead and get logged in here. And of course, my password is expired, so give me just a moment here. Sure you're all familiar with that. All right, and today we're going to go ahead and log in as a provider. All right, and welcome to the new prognosis home screen. So the first thing we'll do is kind of look at the overall layout. So one of the first things that you'll probably notice is that the color palette has changed. So instead of the darker blues, we went with a lighter color palette. The next thing that you might notice is that the appointments and open encounters tabs have been moved closer towards the top of the screen. The selection of the appointments and open encounters tabs is now shown with a red bar across the top, so that will always indicate which tab that you have selected. Our calendar option has now been consolidated. So instead of having a separate calendar option, we've moved it all here into today's date. So clicking on today's date on the left-hand side where we've moved it to now will give you that same calendar option so we can go to any specific date. You do still have your backwards and forwards a day options here as well. And then again, your T for today will always bring you back to today. And we do still also have the total arrived appointments versus the total appointments scheduled indicator here as well. The next major change that you'll notice is that the action icons here in the upper right-hand corner of the home screen have been moved. They can now be found here underneath the vertical ellipsis icon to the right of the patient's name. You'll notice that the action icons are all the same, and their features and functionality all works exactly the same. We've just moved their placement. With the new home screen layout, you'll notice that the column options have changed. By default, you will have the scheduled time, actual time, patient form, patient name, reason for visit, provider, visit type, visit status, room, and scheduling comments. However, in order to show you the new feature of manage columns, which is shown here to the right of the appointments and open encounters tabs, I have added in some additional columns, and I know this is something that a lot of our clients have requested over the years. So we are definitely happy to provide you with this feature. In order to manage your columns that you view, and keep in mind, please, that this is at a user level. So this is not system level. Each user can have their own individualized home screen. In order to customize your home screen, you're going to click here on Manage Columns. Under Manage Columns, you'll see we have two separate columns here, one for available columns and one for selected columns. In the available columns, these are all of the options that you have to use. So for example, under the appointment information, we have the date, the scheduled time, actual time the patient is checked in, whether or not they've been checked out in time, visit status, visit type, visit code, reason for visit, insurance name, and visit location. Underneath that, we have patient information options. So we have patient number and chart number and gender. And then under provider information, we have provider's name and referring provider. And then under miscellaneous, we have the patient form icon, the process status, our scheduling comments, and our room number. Simply clicking on the individual arrows to the right of the options will add that option over here to our list of selected columns. Likewise, clicking on the arrow from our selected columns will allow us to move basically unselect the columns and move them back to our available columns. So to start, I'm actually going to go ahead and put this back to the view that you're used to seeing. And then I just go ahead and click on the apply option. So this is more like what you're used to seeing currently with just the scheduled time, actual time, patient form. You'll notice the patient forms here. The colorization of the forms is, again, completely the same. Green means there's information in there for you to review. Yellow means there's no information. Or sorry, red means there's information in there for you to view. Green means we've reviewed it and accepted it. Again, the patient name, our action icons, our reason for visit, our provider, visit type, visit status, room, and comment. And again, adding or managing columns is as easy as coming here to manage columns and adding in our additional fields. If I do want the visit code, for example, to come up first, I can simply do a drag and drop and add it here to the top of my list. So even the sequence of the columns can be, sorry, excuse me, can be customized as well. Now, it is important to note, however, that the more columns that you have applied, the more likely it is that you'll have to scroll left to right. You'll notice as we add in additional columns, the system will do a little bit of automatic adjustment, but if you do have a smaller screen, then you can also manage the width of the columns yourself as well. So for example, if I want the actual time and schedule time fields to be smaller and maybe my comment field to be larger, I can do that. And again, as you begin managing these columns, you'll notice if you have more columns than will fit on your screen, you'll end up with a scroll bar here at the bottom. Now, the scroll bar will work in conjunction with the scroll wheel that you may have on your mouse, so long as you only have a certain number of patients listed on your home screen. Now, I know a lot of you have had some customizations. Maybe you have taller screens, and so you've gone beyond the 15 or 25, maybe you have 100 patients per page, in which case your scroll wheel will still do the vertical scroll instead of the left to right, in which case you'll need to use the actual left to right scroll bar here at the bottom. All right, we do also still have our filters. And again, you can set filters based off of individual tabs. So you can have filters and columns actually also based off of the appointments tab and then different for the open encounters tab. So here you can see I have the more classic view under my open encounters tab under manage columns. Under the filter, we still have everything selected, but again, I can come in here and say maybe I only want to view ones for a specific provider. So now I can see my filter is applied for open encounters, but when I come here to appointments, I have no filters. And again, I can manage columns for open encounters individually as well. One other thing on the column feature is we've also enabled the ability to sort based off of specific columns. So anywhere you see a column that has an up and down arrow, you can click on that and automatically sort based off of that column. So for example, if I want to sort based off of the scheduled time of the patient, which is typically what the standard sorting is, then we can click here on schedule and it will automatically sort based off of that column. And you'll always know which column is sorted by simply clicking on it here. And so you can do an ascending or descending order. All right, some additional changes that we've made here as far as the layout is previously as a provider, clinical staff member, or MA, you had a box with check boxes in the middle of the top middle of your home screen that would allow you to assign yourself or assign clinical staff members to you as a provider. Instead of having that checkbox, we've now replaced that with a drop-down list. So because I am logged in as a provider, I have clinical staff and MAs available listed in here. And you can see we do have a few selected here, and pretty straightforward. Just like previously, we would simply click the ones we want and click OK. Once they are selected, you'll see the number that you have selected assigned to you listed off to the right, and hovering over that will show you those that are already selected. So you can quickly go in and view who's assigned to you without having to go through the full list. Another layout change that we've made is over here in the upper right-hand corner with the EMR dashboard. So many of you may be familiar with the global dashboard icon here in the global icons, where it will take you to a full dashboard screen. We have now enabled that individually on the home screen itself. So clicking here will now invoke the dashboard in a vertical column without losing any of the functionality of the home screen itself. So you'll still be able to scroll up and down here to view all of the individual reports in your dashboard and still maintain the functionality here as well. And because it has kind of squeezed over the home screen information, we do, again, have that scroll bar here. You can still, view some of the larger reports in a larger screen, I should say. So if this is a little bit difficult to read, you can still do a zoom in on that, and it does make it a little bit easier to read. Managing the dashboard, if you want to make changes to the reports that are viewable, still does need to be done through the global dashboard icon. All right, an additional change that we've made, many of you may have already seen this, is we've moved the patient reminder link that had been on the home screen for everyone. It's now underneath the appointments tab, underneath the reminders option. Again, you'll still maintain the full functionality. So we have all of our patient reminders just on a different screen. The provider preferences, the My Preferences link has been consolidated. So now you'll solely be able to find it here under the Global Settings tab in My Preferences. So if you have provider level preferences that you need to do, or to set, I should say, you can find them here under Settings, My Preferences. We've also moved the inbox dashboard from the upper left-hand corner of the home screen that you're used to viewing. And we have now made it accessible from any page by adding it here into our list of global icons. It will be indicated with a envelope here. You'll see when you hover over it, it'll say inbox. If you have information available to view, it will show up here with a kind of inverted exclamation point, or a lowercase I suppose. Clicking here will open the top 10 most recent messages in your inbox. By default, it will default to all. So again, just the first 10 at the top of your inbox. However, we do also have the ability to quickly filter based off of notifications, to-do, telephone, alerts, or urgent messages. Clicking on the individual message will pull it up right there for you, and you'll still have that full functionality of being able to forward, delete, reply, what have you. And if you want to go directly to your full inbox, so maybe you don't want to see just the top 10 or most recent 10, then you can click here under Go to Inbox, and it will take you directly to your full inbox. All right, and that about covers it for the EMR side. So it looks like we do have one question that we will get to here in just a few minutes. One thing I also want to draw your attention to as far as changes is the patient's name still functions the exact same as it does currently. It just doesn't show up in blue and underlined as a link, but still clicking on the patient's name will take you into the encounter for that day. So again, that feature and that functionality has not changed. Now we're going to go ahead and jump on over to the billing module and take a look at the differences there before we open it up for questions. So we're going to go ahead and use our switch to billing. So again, the first thing you'll notice here is the color palette has been lightened a little bit. You still have your snapshot options here across the top of the billing home screen. And again, although we did away with the underlines, the links are still available. So clicking on the individual light blue now links will still get you all of your full reports. Just like on the EMR home screen, the appointments and open encounters tabs have been moved further up the page. And again, that red bar across the top indicates the ones that you have selected. We have, again, consolidated that calendar option. You still have your backwards and forwards dates, T for today. And again, the biggest change here is, again, that ability to manage columns. So you'll have a couple of additional options here, such as copay collected, copay collectible, visit ID, which are a little more important on the billing side, as well as the pre-authorization number, case number, and another here, the employer name, which we can see I already have listed here, which is really great for those of you who are billing for occupational medicine. And again, the biggest change, aside from the ability to manage columns, is that we've done away with the global, sorry, not global, the home action icons here in the upper right-hand corner, and they can now be found here under the vertical ellipsis. We did also change the tab here that used to say visit or visits to open encounter so that it reflects the same as on the EMR home screen. And the last thing I want to draw your attention to is here in the bottom right-hand corner where we've changed the pagination options. So where previously you had individual page links to click on, now instead we've arranged this with a text box, so you can just type in the number of the page that you want to go to. However, we do still have our previous and next page options here. And we've also now added in our first page and last page options as well. We've also added in the same functionality here on the billing home screen, just with the billing dashboard here. So this will pull up your billing dashboard reports as opposed to your EMR reports. All right, we're going to go ahead and open it up for questions. So I'll take the text questions first. Okay, so the first one is this property driven or automatic? You read something about being able to maintain a classic view. So we do offer a classic view as well. However, it does have to be set at our end. So if you do want to maintain the classic view, it can be done. Sorry, I'm looking for it. Oh, it's because I'm logged in as a provider, so I don't have access to it. Give me just a moment here and I'll get that moved over so that I can show that to you. While I'm getting this together, the other part of that question is, where can I get a saved copy of this webinar to share with my coworkers? And to thoroughly go over everything again. We will be making this available on the Resource Center. So for those of you who are familiar, you can go here to the blue file folder with a piece of paper, and that will allow you to go to the Resource Center where we will have that. But additionally, you'll also notice once the switchover has happened that you'll have access to the new sunburst icon here in the global icons. Clicking on this will invoke the release notes for the new home screen user interface. And this will give you all of the same information that we went over today as well. So if you prefer to read over it as opposed to going through a video. Okay, and sorry, I am doing my best here to try and view these questions. There we go. Okay, and okay, yes. So I think I did answer both of those questions, aside from how to enable. Okay, and once this has a chance to take effect, we'll see. So here is our classic view. So the major changes here with the classic view, again, you keep the new color palette, but we no longer have that ellipsis with the options on the individual patient. So you're back to having to first select the line and then use the action icons, whereas the action icons underneath the ellipsis, you don't have to select the patient first. You can just hover over it and go from patient to patient without having to click and then select and then click and select. But again, we do offer this classic view So if that works best for you and your staff, you can certainly do that as well. All right, so I believe we've answered the questions that were put into the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the mics for verbal questions. All right, so if you do have a question that you would like to ask, you can now go ahead and unmute yourself, and we'll leave this open for the next 5 to 10 minutes until we have answered all of your questions. And to further answer the earlier question as well, where you can get the saved video and when, it will be available on the Resource Center starting tomorrow. Okay, looks like we do have another question asking, does this update automatically? Yes, when the new version is released, it will be updated automatically and you will see those changes. You should see these changes, I believe starting tomorrow is when they'll be released to you. You will find when you log into Prognosis, you'll get a notification if you're scheduled for the update. In order to keep the classic view, which is what we're currently viewing here with the row of action icons here, you will have to contact support after the update and request to have the classic view enabled. And again, we'll go ahead and leave this open for just a few more minutes to allow for any additional questions. Again, you have been provided access to be able to unmute yourself. So if you would like to speak your question instead of typing it in, please do so.
Hi, Nicole.
Yes, hello.
Hi. I am from Billing Tech Support. I just wanted to confirm one thing on this home page. Now, where we see the Manage Columns tab, do we have any access to modify the Manage Columns tabs, like what we actually can view in that tabs? Or this is going to be the default ones?
So the options that we have in the available columns,
Mhm.
those are the only options that we have, but anything that you have listed here is what you can show on your home screen.
Okay, so these are the only options that can be added, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
All right, at this point, if there are no further questions, we'll go ahead and end the webinar. Thank you for attending. If you have any follow-up questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, either contacting your implementation manager if you are still in implementation or contacting support if you are in support. Thank you again for attending.